Hey everybody, this is Tyler. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can add a jumping mechanic to your game. So let's get started. So first things to notice what we've got going on here is we have some starter code just to kind of keep things going so we can jump right into the tutorial. I've created a tile map. I've also added a sprite and some other blocks to it. So if you're interested in learning how to do these things, if you've gotten to this point, check out the tutorials down in the description. It'll show you how to create your own tile map and also add a sprite to your game. So to add jumping to our game, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add movement to my sprite. So I'm gonna go to controller and I'm gonna grab move my sprite with buttons. I'm gonna throw it right there. I'm gonna change this to player character. As you can see, that's the name of my sprite. And you may have already done this before, but what I'm going to do now is click this little plus button. And then this will give us more control. Because if you notice now, with our sprite, we can move any direction we want. And that's not the case. We only want to move left and right. We don't want to move up and down. We want the jumping mechanic to take care of that. So all I'm going to do is this VY right here, which stands for velocity Y. We're going to make this 0. And if you remember, V or Y controls are up and down. And now I can move left and right, but I can't move up and down. So after that, what I want to do is add some gravity to our game to make our sprite fall down to the bottom of our level. And there's a really simple way to do that. So I'm going to click on my sprites, and then I'm going to click set my sprite X. I'm going to include this right over here underneath all my sprite blocks. And I'm going to change this to AY, acceleration Y. And I'm going to change this to player character. And then I'm going to type in 300. You can type any number you want in here. The bigger the number, the faster your falls, the faster your sprite will fall. And the smaller number, the slower it will fall. I found 300 was a good number for me, but play around with that, pick whatever you want. And as you can see, our sprite is now fallen to the bottom of the screen. And while we're here, a good practice is to kind of control this number with a variable, just in case we need to use our gravity number or change it later on, or we want to increase it or decrease it. We know exactly where it is, and we don't have to hunt through the code. So a good best practice is to make a new variable. I'm going to call this one gravity. I'm also going to type it in caps. That way we know it's a variable that isn't really going to change unless we manually change it ourselves. So I'm going to put this at the beginning of our code. And again, I like to put these right at the beginning, so that way if I do want to change something, I know exactly where to go. I'm going to type 300 in there. I'm going to go back to variables, and I'm going to pop it in right there. And you should see when this reloads, it'll do the exact same we have it doing. Okay, so we have gravity. Our sprite can move left and right, but now we want to, when we press the A button, we want to jump. And a really easy way to do that is grab under controller this on A button pressed. And so what we want to do is we want to have something that changes the Y in the opposite direction. So we're using a positive number right here. So that means we need to use a negative number to change it to go up. So I'm going to go back to sprites. I'm going to grab this set X. Again, I'm going to click on the change this to player character so we don't throw an error. And I'm going, and this time, instead of changing acceleration, I'm going to change velocity. And as I said before, we're going to make this a negative number. And again, this can be any number you want. It needs to be negative to go up. I found 140 was a good number to play around with. Again, you can change this to technically it's a smaller number, but you can make this a larger negative number. And this will increase our jump height, which is exactly what I'm going to call it now. So just as a test though, I'm going to do this. You can see when I press A button, I get a little jumping action. But I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call this jump height. And I'm going to do this. And again, I'm going to put this Oops. I'm going to put this right next to my gravity. I'm going to type in -140. And I'm going to go back down here. And I'm going to throw a variable in. Jump heights. Okay. So if you're following along right now, you may notice when I press A, I keep jumping up infinitely. We don't want infinite jumps. Right now we just want one jump and for it to stop. So what we need to do is we need to test if our sprite is touching the ground. If it is touching the ground, then we can jump. But if I'm mid-air, I can't jump again. So we need to create a conditional statement that kind of tests for that condition. So just based on the words I'm using, you probably guess we're going to use this if statement and a conditional logic to see if something is true or not. So I'm going to grab this if statement. I'm going to pop it right into here. And last thing we need to do is we need to add a condition. And it's a really easy way to do this. If you go to scene and you scroll down, you're going to find, is my sprite hitting wall? And a wall is something we add to our tile maps. So it may be confusing. So you see kind of how these things are highlighted in red? These are walls that we added. So that way we can test to see if our sprite is touching one of these walls for our platforms. So I'm going to click done. I'm going to change this to player character. And instead of wall left, I'm going to do wall bottom. That way we know the bottom of our sprite is touching a wall. And you notice now when I press A, I only jump once. And now I can jump on these platforms. But you may notice I can't reach that one above me. And I'm trying to do a double jump, but since we haven't programmed to do it, it's not working. So that's what we're gonna do in our next video. So we can figure out how to do this double jump. It's totally cool if you're fine with a single jump, but if you wanna kind of make your game a little more complex, add a little more functionality to it, check out our next video. Again, links in the description on how to make a double jump. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful.